Hey guys, Asocials here, back with another video, and this week we're actually talking about ADHD, what it is and what it's not. But before we get into that, I want to explain why there was such a delay between the first video and this video, as well as the other videos I'm going to put out today. So I'm uploading three videos actually. Yeah, I'm uploading 3 videos today and editing 2, so it's going to be a very busy day. Hopefully to make up for what was missed last week, because I had last week was a headache. I spent 6 hours total prepping, recording, and uploading and editing the video that I'm about to edit again today. And I was actually trying all week to kind of get it up again, but it just didn't work out. So what I'm going to do is re-upload it all over again, re-edit it all over again, and I actually had to cut some parts out altogether. But yeah, I'm going to get that out today as well. And also, you can see behind me, obviously I have a new location. One of the other videos, you'll see that as well. And I also explain and I show you the spot that I actually wanted, but I just couldn't get. And so I'm probably going to just stop trying for it altogether. Basically, the natural sunlight that I wanted coming in, I can't get it because every time I get over here, it takes me like 20 minutes to get here from my house. I love the location. I thought it would look great, but every time I come out here, it's overcast. You know, clouds out, there's no sun, and it just doesn't work with the lighting. So I'm going to give up on that, but I am going to try to get out into like maybe some like parks. I'm going to try to do some more things outside, and because I have this brand new mic, I can hopefully do that. We'll see. But yeah, it's pretty good so far. I listened to the audio on it. I like it a little bit better than what I would normally get on the phone. No echoes is the great thing. I do have to talk a little bit lower because it does pick up a lot. Like when you're close to it, basically it picks up a lot. But yeah, so that location, I'm probably just going to say, you know, we're going to scrap that idea, but at least you'll get to see it in one of the other videos, and I'll show you what it was I wanted specifically. So let's get right into it, what ADHD is and what it's not. And so it is... it's considered a mental disorder. I know some people don't like that word, and they don't like it to be referred to like that. But from what I've seen so far, that's what a lot of, I guess, scientists or professionals refer to it as. And obviously, you might have a different idea of it. Go ahead and let me know in the comments if you think otherwise. But basically, it's a mental disorder that affects your frontal lobe. And your frontal lobe being responsible for organization, paying attention, planning, and of course, decision making. And anyone who knows me knows that I definitely have some issues with all of those. And so there are 3 types of ADHD. I personally feel like they're all grouped together. I feel like it's hard to separate them, but I know that in different people with ADHD, sometimes you really can't tell, and I'll get into that later in the video. But 3 different types, which are inattention, impulsivity, and hyperactivity. And I believe that I have inattention and hyperactivity more so than impulsivity. A lot of impulsivity when I was younger, but I think a lot of kids are just impulsive, period. But mainly because impulsivity has to do with interrupting and taking risks. And of course, I'll put the links to my source down in the description box. But I don't take risks as much as I used to, especially because now I'm older and I have a family and whatnot, so I simply can't do that. I probably still would. Like I tell my wife all the time, like if I had never met her and I didn't have a family, I would definitely either be still in Afghanistan or I'd be in Iraq. You know, simply because to me that's where I would rather be there right now. But of course, I love my family, so I'm here and taking less risk in being here in the States with them. And interrupting, I still do that quite a bit. For sure, I didn't realize I was doing it as much until someone pointed that out to me a few months back, that I actually do it quite often. I do work on it, but, inattention, hyperactivity, definitely. With inattention being just getting distracted. And you'll see on this video, I have that issue. Concentrating, which I discussed in the sales video, and so how I was kind of sneaking off to to be on my own, and that it didn't work out. This past week at work, there was an issue with that, and so I had to come back with the rest of normal people and the rest of society, which sucks now, but that's part of life. You just kind of have to do it. And then hyperactivity being talking a lot and being fidgety. So I'm very fidgety and I do talk a lot. And anyone that knows me knows that I talk a lot. And that's why I had to kind of figure out a way to shorten these videos down in the future. So I don't want big, super long 20 and 30-minute videos. So I'm going to work on that for sure. And so I wanted to also address people who, like what people think it is, and also people who like to self-diagnose. And so I know a lot of people always assume that, if you're really, really hyper, that means that, you just definitely have ADHD, whereas you might just be someone that has a lot of energy. You might not have ADHD. You might just think you do. And so that's something that I've seen as well myself personally, is that now that I know that I have it, I'll say it. When I come to work, I'll let people know that, because now I'm like, all right, wait, I have ADHD, and that means this, this, and this. So I let them know, hey, this is the type of things that help me at work, and these are things that hinder me at work. And it's kind of an effort to kind of, not to say, hey, I want special treatment, but just to tell you like, hey, I know we all want to be productive, and this is when I'm most productive. So if you could, I would greatly appreciate it if you could accommodate me. And if not, I completely understand that too. That's fine. But you'll never know if you don't ask. The worst thing they could do is say no, and then you'll just live your life like you've been living it anyway, and you'll just kind of have to be, judged like everyone else, and you'll have to do things like everyone else. But if you can be accommodated, it doesn't hurt to ask. So I'll do that. But I'll say, hey, I have ADHD, and people will say, oh yeah, me too, and they'll laugh. And I'll be like, no, I didn't just like read like an article online for like 10 or 15 minutes. I actually had a very thorough just set of testing. So the way that I actually went about it was I spoke to a therapist first. I spoke to her for a few months. And this was like right after I got back from Afghanistan, because a lot of my friends would tell me that I should, based on just how, I was, I guess how I was acting, or, the way I was carrying myself at the time. They was like, you should go see somebody about it. And so I went and I told her that I was definitely depressed, and I thought I might have anxiety as well. And so we dug into that, and then she actually said, hey, you ever thought that maybe you might have ADHD? And at the time, I didn't even believe in it. I thought it was made up. I thought it was just, people, like, I was like, hey, everyone's hyper, and that's my mind. The same thing everyone else thinks about it is exactly what I thought. And so she set me up with a psychiatrist, and I did a few sessions with her, and then I took this super long 3-hour test. Which there was a certain part of it was like 15 minutes of me just hitting a space bar, like exactly 15 minutes. You have to hit a space bar for every time you see an X that comes up on the screen, you hit the space bar. And if there's no X or any other letter, you just don't hit it. And that was the most annoying test ever, which I ended up finding out was the point of it. That's how they can tell if you actually do have ADHD, is based on all these different people evaluating you, plus taking these different, types of tests. And so that was, for me, I don't know. I feel like when I finally found out and I realized what it was very, very emotional. The first 2 weeks were very hard because of the simple fact that all this time, like I said in the previous video, I didn't fit in. I didn't know why I was so different, and that contributed to it. And I still feel that the introversion, that asocial aspect of me is somewhat separate from the ADHD. Obviously, I can't really tell. It's just how I personally feel. But I don't know. I feel like the ADHD is what also made it possible for me to be, just alienated from everyone else. And it sucked, And so at 26 years old, to finally figure out, after, a quarter of a century being on this planet, figuring out that this is the reason why you were so different and why you kind of, you don't fit in with everybody. It was like a rush of emotion all at once. It was 26 years worth of emotion all at once. Maybe 24 or 23, because those first 3 years, you don't know what's going on anyway. But yeah, so it was a big deal. But after a while, I started to progress with my my research of it. And so that's when I started feeling differently, because I was like, oh, well, this makes more sense now. I don't feel as bad about it. I feel like now I have a tool that I can use that helps me understand myself a lot better. And so that to me, I feel like it's something that if a lot more people actually knew about it, would feel differently, and they wouldn't just throw it around so easily. And I feel like that's what happens too. Is like everyone's really just like, like, oh man, you're really hyper, or I can't focus, I must have ADHD, and then you find out you don't actually have it if you get tested, and you're like, oh well, I think I'm just hyper, or you might absolutely have it. You never know, but just kind of throwing it around is just kind of like the social norm now. And I'm not too mad about it. It doesn't really make it's like. I didn't really know this before last year, so I can't expect everyone else to know it. But of course, this is why I'm here, educating people about it, people who do have it and people who don't, who didn't know, both parties who didn't know about it before. And so I feel that everyone should go get diagnosed. I'm not saying that, hey, man, you definitely have to do this. I personally, for me, it's made a major difference. And something that I've noticed is that people that I know that I think may have it based on just discussions that we've had about symptoms that I had, and I'll explain to them like, hey, this is how I feel at certain times. These are the type of things that I do. And they'll say, oh yeah, that sounds like me. And I'm like, hey, you might have ADHD. I'm not a doctor. I obviously can't diagnose you. I clearly couldn't diagnose myself. But based on what I've experienced and what I've seen and what I've researched and what I've heard from these doctors, you may have it. It doesn't hurt to go get checked out. And then something that I see that I do kind of get upset about, only when it's people that I personally care about. If I meet some random person on the street who says that they may have it, like I had a woman the other night, I was driving Uber, who told me, she said something about how she had it and she thought that I didn't have it. And I was like, all right, well, have a good night. And she got out. I'm never going to see her again in my life. Like, I don't care. But if I personally know you, I kind of feel some type of way when like, you tell me like, hey, we have some of the same symptoms and you don't get checked out, because I care about the people around me. And so I'll get people who won't go get diagnosed. I don't know if it's like for fear of just being told that they have some type of illness and they don't want to have it, or I don't know, they're just too lazy. But I've had people who've told me that they feel that they might, based on what I've, based on the symptoms that I've told them I had, but they won't go get checked out. And you're like, why are we having this discussion then? What do you want me to do for you? And I guess maybe they want me to tell them what I've done, but what I've done is go and get diagnosed, so I've already gotten checked out. So I'm like, that was the first step, is figuring out if I even had it, because you can't treat something if you don't know what it is. You might think you have it and you have something totally different, which is completely unrelated. And so the way I think of it is like, if you had a tumor, it might be benign. You might be on your deathbed next week, but you feel fine right now, but you don't want to know. And so you're like, it'll be fine. And, regardless of what's going on, I'm going to still live my life. And you're like, yeah, but you might live differently if you knew exactly what it was. That's how I felt about ADHD. And I know that's a bit of a stretch. It's a pretty, pretty severe comparison, but in my mind, I'm like, why wouldn't you want to know? And some people, it just makes it easier for them because ignorance is bliss. You can just keep living your life. But for me, it helped me learn how to deal with it. It helped me learn how to look into it. So like if I'm looking up, like, hey, jobs for people who have ADHD, like what jobs do we usually thrive in that works best for our mindset because we think differently? Things like that help me. Or just what types of medications, what types of non-prescription medications. If you're someone that likes, that wants to try medical marijuana, you want to be sure you're getting the right stuff because you don't want to be wasting your time, with things, and time and money on things you don't need. But I guess to some people, they're like, I'm just getting high, it doesn't matter. So I guess if you're that person, more power to you. But I feel like the more you know, the more educated you are on it, the more that you're able to do it, just gives you more options. I'm a person that loves to have plenty of options. There are some people who just kind of, play it by ear, all the time. And that's perfectly fine too. But for anyone else who doesn't like that, I would honestly suggest that you go get checked out and go get diagnosed, go take the test and see if you actually have it. Because I think it does help. And so I will do a video in the future about medications, different meds that I've taken. I'm not on anything right now for ADHD. I'm on Zoloft for depression, simply because the side effects of stimulants oh man, they screw me all up. It's bad. Like I'll be up for well over 24 hours on any stimulant I take, and even on the lowest doses. So I was just like, I'm done with this. Like the mental clarity that you get is amazing, I've gotten so many things done. I got this job actually while I was on a stimulant doing a course that got me ready for this. The course was supposed to take a month, and I got it done in 3 days, 28 hours on stimulants. So it works, but the side effects were insane. Like you can't, I don't want to go into it. In a future video, I'll go over medications, the side effects, and things that I've experienced personally and what I've taken so far, what I've tried, both prescription and non-prescription. What's worked for me, what hasn't so far. So that'll be for a later date. And so something I found too is that another good reason to actually get checked out is because you can live your life in a more positive way. And you can learn how to, if you do have it, not allow it to dictate or control your life, and consume you. And so that's why I, again, personally would say to go do it. It definitely helped me. And I feel like it would make a difference in a lot of people's lives. So that's it for now. And I do have some more that I did want to speak about on this, but I feel like I can make shorter videos that are more tailored to those specific topics. So that's what I'm going to do. I just realized too, I've been like fidgeting in this chair this whole time. I'm probably not going to do this in a rolly chair next time because I was moving the entire time, and that just shows I'm very fidgety. But until next time, guys, like, share, subscribe, and I will see you next time, like I just said. So yeah.